What is democracy? What is democracy?
Got something to do with young men killing each other, I believe.
When it comes my turn, will you want me to go?
For democracy, any man would give his only begotten son.
Go for it.
From Israel, it's John's Place. Good evening, everybody. Once again, this is John's Place Live. With us tonight in our studio from around the country, we have Mr. Paul Wiener, chairman of the Likud Anglo Division. Also with us this evening is David Wiener, chairman of the Beit Shemesh Likud Anglo Division. He has not had a title until now, and I have officially anointed you the Likud Beit Shemesh Anglo Division chairman. You might want to figure out with the initials some kind of like abbreviation so people will remember that.
LAD.
Okay. What's that?
LAD Beit Shemesh.
LADBSC.
Very nice. Okay, so this evening, our show is the State of the State Address. You know, we have passed through a very rough time in Israel, and we are still currently moving through the toughest times Israel has seen probably since, I don't know, the Yom Kippur War or the Six-Day War. Israel has also conquered something that no one thought could happen in any time in the near future. That is finally coming to a coalition agreement and avoiding fourth elections. Now, how is this working out for all of us, for Israel? Let's move the coronavirus issue aside, because that will be tackled a great deal in the near future, in the days and weeks ahead. Let's talk about something that has just happened with the so-called coalition agreement. Now, let us all look at ourselves also in the state of the government, how the government is operating in Israel today. And some of us can look at it and say, you know, where have we come? Where has the startup nation come that we can sit down together in such tough times and come to an agreement? And then when we finally do come to an agreement, it's an agreement that doesn't look like it will make it till the change and the handoff of the prime ministership. David, what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, it's to me the whole thing is just seems like a bunch of crazy nonsense. I mean, you have blue and white holding the justice ministry at the same time. Appointing any judges, the Likud has a veto power on it, and they're the ones that run the committee for it, and it's the same thing for everything. It's like anything that the Likud got, the blue and white have the power to veto it. Anything the blue and white got, Likud has the power to veto it, and if they try to prosecute Netanyahu, then Gantz can't be prime minister. It's just like the whole thing is just.
Did you say if they try to do what to Netanyahu?
If in a year and a half, right? Part of the agreement is if in a year and a half, when Gantz is supposed to take over to be prime minister, if the Supreme Court decides that Netanyahu can't be the vice prime minister or whatever it is, then they're going to go to elections in a year and a half. Or Bibi's going to continue. It's just the whole thing was just.
No, Gantz takes over right away.
He takes over right away.
The interim government.
Unless the Supreme Court is going to try to knock Bibi off or something. I don't know.
Okay, let's not get into that. That's already. I don't think we have to worry about. I think we have to worry about the coalition itself.
The coalition
being able
nuts.
to even have lunch together as a group, let alone rule the nation.
That's what I'm saying.
Paul, tell me something, Paul.
Well, all this right now, what you're talking about,
No,
is happening
it's not
because
stable.
there's too much judicial interference. The judicial does not have the right to interfere in who's going to be prime minister, who's going to be appointed, who can run, who can this, who can that. They just stick to what they're supposed to do, and that's being the Supreme Court. Something comes in front of them that they're allowed to make a decision on, then let them make a decision. But they make decisions on everything and everything, anything. Do you know, last month they made a decision whether we should have Passover according to the Torah, or we should make it a Passover at a different date because of the coronavirus. Now,
that was only a joke. That's called fake news, Paul. Let's not exaggerate. That was some reconstructionist
ruled
rabbi
against
woman.
it. They said it had to be when it was. My whole point is that what? That now they're at the level of, being God, and they can decide the Torah. They can decide anything they want in this country. They can take anything they want to take, no matter what it is, even if they shouldn't. And there's no guidelines for the Supreme Court. It has to be changed. That's my
Okay.
All right, as far as the coalition, you know what? We ended up with the best coalition that we could end up because of the circumstances. The big monkey wrenches are here.
Likud has now become a center government. If you mix the left and the right together, you sort of get a center. And this is not a right-wing government.
That's true, but the point is that that's why we have a coalition, unfortunately, because we couldn't form a right-wing government. And you know why? We had Oslo. Who supported Oslo? The Arabs. And I'm not saying anything against the Arabs, but the Arabs are guests in the Jewish state of Israel. And now they're controlling the future and destiny of the Jewish state in Israel. That's an oxymoron or something, because they shouldn't have any say in our protection and everything. They don't serve in the army. You know why they don't serve in the army?
Paul, we're talking about the coalition. That's old news. They're already an old-time picture that no one even remembers.
It's going to get worse as time comes on when they get more influence, and they have more votes this time than last time. Now, as far as the coalition, like I said, because of the Supreme Court, they had to make all those things that counterbalance everything else, because they have a whole list of things that have to be passed by the Knesset before the government can even start. Because if those things aren't passed by the Knesset, then there is no national unity government. You know that, right?
Not even if it's not passed. It's also if the Supreme Court rejects it. You got to realize that.
Right, but what gives the Supreme Court to interfere in the policy of the government? There's no separation. We don't interfere in the Supreme Court. What gives them the right to interfere in the government?
Forget the Supreme Court. Don't worry about the Supreme Court.
What about the 36 ministers?
Explain to me this, okay? How is Mr. Bibi Netanyahu going to pull off annexing of the Jordan Valley? We're going to get up to the point where it's like July time when we're allowed to start doing it, implementing or discussing or measuring or whatever, okay? Now, that's going to move up.
You actually have 61, though. That's the strange thing about it. You have the party Derech Eretz with housing.
I understand. There's only one problem.
68. He has 68.
There's only one problem.
Lieberman said he would vote for the annexation. That's
okay. So I guess Naftali Bennett would vote for it also from the opposition.
I don't think Naftali's going to be in the opposition. I think it's going to end up being there's going to be 76 or 78 in the coalition.
And what ministry is he going to get?
Something so he'll join the coalition, obviously.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to make that big of a difference.
Maybe they'll make up a new portfolio. How do I know? I don't want to guess. They're going to have 36 ministers, the most they've ever had. They're making them up now.
Yeah, and not only that, Bennett is trying to build.
Listen, let me tell you something. Enough of this. It's all up to the people of this country, okay? Nothing personal. I love Israel. I love the people of Israel. We have allowed the politicians to get out of hand. We have allowed them to put themselves on a pedestal whereby they're not in tune with their constituents, if they have direct constituents. This has been going on in America for quite some time. And now in Israel, too, the people who are in the government find themselves above everybody else by far. And unfortunately, for a lot of people right now, they're not feeling the love from the MKs. Okay? They see
Bennett
Bibi
did
every
just
night on
donate
TV.
20% of his salary, though. So.
Not a lot, 20 MKs.
20%. No, I'm saying
By
Bennett.
the way, if we had 20% of his salary,
he donated.
The 20 MKs took no raise.
He watched our show last week, and he heard what I said, and he decided to donate part of his salary. I'm very proud of him.
No, call the vote.
You see, we do have influence. People listen, and then they make decisions sometimes based on what we have to say, because we give the public the truth. We tell them what's really going on. You know?
Well, that's another thing. You know, it's interesting you brought this up now. There is an English daily in this country, supposedly from the center, but I think it's more center left. I'm not going to mention its name. And today on page 3, they have a very large article on J Street, none other. J Street. You all know J Street? You know, up until now, the Trump administration had silenced J Street. You didn't even hear about them. And they were Obama's king of kings in the White House. Okay, but they gave him press that J Street was condemning the coalition and obviously condemning any thoughts of annexation, and obviously very concerned for Israel's democratic and Jewish future. I love all those people with their concerns.
Did you
How
know?
did they get even the print space in an Anglo newspaper? That's why it's very important.
I'll tell you
for people
why.
to listen to this.
Yesterday,
As crazy as we are, and that means you, Paul. Paul,
what?
take it easy. Yeah. This is where the truth comes out. And by the way, David, I love that picture behind you. Those two guys are listening very diligently to this show. Maybe they can learn something.
Winking.
Say hello to them. Hey, everybody say
Winking.
hello. You know these two guys?
You know,
David, you
Don,
want to introduce?
Yesterday, J Street endorsed
Future Prime Minister.
Joe Biden
Yes.
for president, and ever since
Beautiful thing. I think-
J Street endorsed Joe Biden for president, all of a
And
sudden.
what about Ilhan Ramon?
Who?
What's her name? From Minnesota.
What?
Ilhan Omar.
Ilhan, yeah.
Ilhan Omar, whatever her name is. She's for vice president. Oh, no, UN ambassador to the UN for Joe
Ambassador
Biden.
to UN, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, that's going to be a big
So I
change
think
for
they're
making
going to
her-
take away one of the seats from the Arab bloc. Maybe the Palestinian ambassador could take time off, and she can fit that seat and the U.S. seat.
Well,
Anything's possible.
you know. I never heard the
All right,
Somalians
let's go
were
on to one other
Palestinians.
thing here.
You know.
Let's go, guys.
Yeah.
Shake it up a little bit. I really want to hear some of your thoughts about a time frame till the next election. Now that we sort of
Year
have
and
a
a half.
coalition, a year and a half, 2 years. Gantz
Nothing
never
more than
gets
that.
to become prime minister. Bibi never gives up the seat, the chair.
Bibi tore him apart. Gantz is he's not going to be prime minister. They're going to go to elections, and nobody's going to vote for him, and he's going to be gone. It was a pure
And who's going to
gameplay
take
by
over
Bibi.
the Likud?
I don't exactly. I
Who's
really
gonna take
don't.
over the Likud?
Number one, part of the coalition agreement is that in order for Gantz to be unseated, 80 votes have to vote against him, which I don't think will happen. I think it'll go about 3 years, personally. And we have to see what happens, you know, and how they work together. Maybe stranger things have happened. So, you know, personally, I don't think that Gantz will survive, but I think that a certain amount of his people will come to the Likud. And a certain amount of people will go the other way.
Let me ask you
Going
another
after.
hypothetical question. Do you think it's possible at any point, post Netanyahu, that Naftali Bennett sort of picks up some strays from the Likud who've become very disappointed whether they didn't get ministerial jobs or no lack of movement upwardly, and they decide, you know what, maybe we'll jump ship and maybe we'll go help Naftali Bennett build a party. And then it would be a true right-wing party with some really good names.
No.
Highly doubt.
You know,
What?
I think my answer is no. You know, Bennett, for my opinion, has been doing a very good job as a defense minister, but he's not a vote getter. He had his opportunity 3 times. The first time they didn't even get in, him and IL. They couldn't do it with their own party. He doesn't draw votes. I don't know what it is, but he doesn't draw votes. He doesn't have that charisma of.
It reminds me of the
so
Joker
what?
from Batman. Remember the
No,
you
what
remember
I'm
the Joker
saying
from
is,
Batman?
what I'm saying is you're missing the point. Post Netanyahu, there's going to be an inner battle within the Likud. There'll be winners, there'll be losers. Some of the losers may not have much of a home left in Likud, or they may think they have other opportunities because that's the nature of the Israeli electoral system. You just jump from party to party like free agency in baseball in the 80s, okay? So what I'm saying, those people who will have some kind of chip on their shoulder or be very disappointed that they have not made any progress can look at Naftali Bennett and say, you know, 3-4 of us, almost like the Kadima situation, except Kadima wasn't right-wing, whereas Bennett's party is right-wing.
Well,
So why
Virginia
couldn't
had
that
Ariel
happen?
Sharon, and he was the prime minister when they broke away. It's no comparison. They aren't going to break away. You know, we have several people in the Likud that are ministers or not ministers. They have great potential to be a great prime minister after Bibi decides to retire.
Yeah, and I don't see them going with Bennett either. You have to understand that there's a reason why Bennett isn't in the Likud, because like my father said, he doesn't draw votes. And in the Likud, people do not like him. They don't like him. He kind of stabbed everybody in the back. And when you're talking about Kadima, what happened with Kadima is everybody that went with Kadima is basically gone. They're all disappeared. Nobody's going to do that. Nobody is going to break away from the Likud right now. The Likud is the strongest party in Israel. And everybody knows if they break away from the Likud, then they lose any sort of ability to have any sort of say or power in anything. If you see what,
but
what's
you don't
going
believe
on,
the Likud maintains their power and their status without Netanyahu at the helm?
I believe they will.
They will.
Like I said, we have several very good candidates for being the next prime minister after Bibi retires. So why wouldn't they be good? I mean, they've been in there, they do good jobs, they have a lot going for them, you know. Sooner or later, there has to be a change, and we have the material.
Well, the fact of the matter is that the Likud didn't want to remove
Bennett doesn't match up to many of our ministers now in the Likud. Why would anybody think that he could be prime minister or that he has something to offer them?
By the way, I didn't say to become prime minister right away. I said,
Well, I'm saying, but he has nothing.
build
He's going to
his
wait
party.
around 3-4 years at a time. Well, I'll give Bennett a chance to get from 6 to 7 to 8. He has never improved his vote count.
You just look at Bennett's history, right? So he went in to Bayit Yehudi. When in the first election in Bayit Yehudi, they had something that I think it was like 15 or
12, I believe, 12.
12. The next election, he dropped down. Then the next election, he didn't get voted in at all. He had to join back up with them to get back in. He killed the right wing. He was the one that destroyed the right wing. Nobody else. It wasn't the Likud. It was Bennett. He destroyed the right wing. He tore them apart.
You mean
He
Yamina?
didn't stick by his ideologies. What's that?
You mean Yamina, the party?
No, I'm talking about him.
He means
Bennett
talking about the right wing
tore
political
apart the
party.
right wing.
It's separate from the Likud.
He tore apart the Kippah Sruga, the National Religious Party. He was the one that destroyed it. It wasn't the
They didn't have much of a they didn't have much of a party before he destroyed it. They didn't. What, on the Daniel Hershkowitz they had a party?
You know what? They never had. They took Bennett because he had a good profile. Their party hasn't had a leader, a charismatic type of leader for many, many years. And I think what also hurt the Yamina was the fact that these three elections, people started understanding that we don't support the two larger parties, and I'm not saying just the Likud, but also, blue and white, we're going to end up with the right party, or we're going to end up with a left party. I mean, look at Labor. Labor, is gone after this past election. Merit is gone after this past election, and they got in the first election. They got in on their own. The third election, they were nothing. They're nothing. They're gone.
I think the more likelihood.
Okay, gentlemen. I know we can continue this conversation all night, but we're getting closer to the end of our show, and I just wanted us to briefly touch upon. This week was Yom HaShoah, Holocaust Memorial Day, memory of the 6 million Jews killed in the Holocaust and the Shoah. And it has a special meaning here in Israel more than any other place in the world, because the most survivors did end up living in Israel and moving to Israel. And to this day, the most survivors live in Israel, and it's a special meaning to hear the siren and people stand at attention, even if they're riding on a highway at 60, 70 miles an hour. But this year, unfortunately, has been a little different. A lot of these elderly people, they are the ones suffering, and they are the ones passing away in the nursing homes and other facilities, as they are in the high-risk group. And they've made it this far after surviving such a death sentence. And here they are now. And it's unfortunate that some of them lived out their last days in such uncomfort and also suffering from a horrible death sentence without being able to say goodbye to members of their family. So I reach out to them, and your memories should always be a blessing, and we will never forget, and never again. Would you guys like to add anything?
Yeah, I think we have to be very perseverant in the future. I agree with everything you said, so I won't repeat it. Ever since the coronavirus started, the rise in anti-Semitism has been enormous in the world. And it shows we always have to be on our toes, protect all our people wherever they may be all over the world. I mean, in Germany, there's a big rise in anti-Semitism. The U.S. attacks on people has risen. So why everybody, all of a sudden, they're blaming the coronavirus on the Jews? I don't even understand. We all know where it started. China. We know it probably started in a lab, and we know it came from bats there. And all of a sudden, the Jews are being blamed for coronavirus. I mean, is this a new thing instead of BDS or something, that they have an excuse to blame the Jews for something? So we always have to be on our toes. And we always have to remember,
David.
Never again. Never again.
Trying to quiet him down.
Well, I think
David.
I think I stand by what you said. I
Can't hear you.
I said I definitely stand by what you said. I think the thing that has found me to be really a godsend is that if you notice, I mean, anybody actually looks at the statistics that are going on right now sees that Israel is 100% the safest place to be in the world, whether it's by God's hands or by government hands, which I doubt is from the government hands because they never do anything good. If you actually listen to Trump,
we don't have a government, and maybe that's why.
Trump never mentions it. He'll mention that Germany's doing better and this and that. He won't mention Israel because he knows that if he says Israel is the best country right now, they're doing the best, then the anti-Semitism is just going to go crazy. So you have to appreciate the recognition of somebody that actually takes that into consideration and doesn't put us in the limelight for safety. And just basically keeps it off the map in order to actually stop the hatred and stop the politics and stop all the nonsense. And I think it's very important to recognize the fact that you're right. Most of the people that have been dying in Israel were Holocaust survivors. And, you know, what we're going through right now is definitely not what they went through. But, you know, they were in quarantine in these camps for a long time. And, you know, we have to look and see, we're in quarantine, but look how much better we have. And it's because of them that we are where we are. And it's because of them that we can sit in quarantine in our house and get fat. You know, the Ministry of Health said we're gonna gain like 3 or 4 kilos over the time when we're in quarantine. So we really have to be thankful for what they got through, and that they came here and they fought for this country and they built this country, and we have to continue fighting for the country. And whether it's for the annexation, whether it's to, you know, actually show people why we shouldn't be voting for the left-wing parties and the ones that want to give away our God-given rights.
In the last 2 days, there have been anti-Semitic attacks on synagogues, with all kinds of stuff on the synagogues in Germany and the Ukraine. And that's in the last 2 days. So it's getting worse.
Amen. All right. Listen, this is the
We lost John.
Yeah, I think we lost John. So that would
All
be.
right, so listen, our show is obviously over. And,
here he's back, John.
Now we had a little technicality. Okay, a lot of overuse of the internet. Anyway, we're going to sign off. We want to wish everybody the best. Follow the rules still, please. We're not there yet. We have a little bit more.
Look forward to Independence Day next week.
Enjoy the beautiful weather. Independence Day is not going to be what it usually is. But what's more important is we must get everybody back to work. We must help people put food on their tables.
And
that's
everybody
it.
stay healthy.
Sign off
stay
quickly.
safe.
Thank you. David, good night, David.
Good night. Have a good one,
Good night, John.
Okay.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.